Today we're going to continue working on our tail cone assembly. So if we're looking at our drawing over here, you can see this cross tie box assembly. We did this before. I talked about this in the last video a little bit. On the back of this, and this is an old drawing, so this is revision Delta. The newest revision is revision Echo, and it actually is different from this drawing. And the mount for the flap actuator is actually different on this new assembly than it was when this was printed. So when my kit was originally built, it was a different actuator. You can see it's the SNB C0511, and it used different types of mount points for it. So here's what it looks like. Here's our cross tie box assembly here, and they would go on the back of it, and the actuator would connect into this hole right here. With this new actuator, it's slightly different. It actually mounts to the bottom of it. If you go on the Sonex website, you can get the newer drawings. You can see that it's slightly different. In this case, the actuator mounts actually go on the bottom of the cross tie box. Let me zoom in a little bit on this to make it a little easier to see. But these mounts go off on the left side of the cross tie box, not on the back side like it is on the original drawing here. When I line up the holes to connect the cross tie box, this is called the closeout. It goes on the bottom of the cross tie box assembly here. The upper, which is actually below right now, but when it's in the airplane it will be the upper, this is the lower. When you line up these two on the end, these two holes, everything lines up just fine. But when you do that, all of the rest of the holes are off by, I don't know, 50 thousandths, maybe 60 thousandths of an inch or something like that. And you'll notice I've got this oriented correctly based on where those the flap actuator mounts go here on the left. However, if I flip this over, where the flap actuator mounts are on the right, all of these holes line up exactly where they're supposed to. So I ended up just sending a message off to Sonex just to find out what I'm supposed to do in this case. It's possible that maybe the flap actuator is supposed to go on the right with this new version, or it's possible that I'm just going to have to re-drill holes on the left because they were misdrilled on the right for this part that I have. I'm not really sure what the answer is going to be. I'm just going to go ahead and do some other work on this until I get a straight answer. Hopefully I hear back from them by the end of the day today. Alright, so in the meantime, what I'm going to work on is these spacers that go underneath the bottom skin and attach also into a splice clip that's attached to the lower longerons. Let me go over to the drawing real quick and we'll talk through that process. Alright, so here's the detail that's going to show us what we're working on here. So there's a cross tie that goes across the bottom of the airplane that goes underneath this lower skin that's sitting on top of that. And that cross tie looks like this. It's sort of a C-channel type shape. And then the lower skin sits below that. And sort of on top of that, the first little rectangle there, if we can get this into focus and close enough here, there's two rectangles. The lower one is going to be our spacer, so it's going to kind of sit right there. And then above that is a slightly larger rectangle, and that is the splice. So we've got the splice that comes back here that attaches to the lower longeron. It's going to attach to the forward fuselage side skin here. And then it has this little bump out that kind of goes out to about here. And then our spacer is going to go kind of right in there. So kind of, I don't know. Hopefully you can see that in the image. I don't know how else to explain it. So what I've done is I've marked these two spacers. One is for the captain's side, usually the left seat, and this one is for the first officer side, which will be the right seat. I've marked the edges at 1/4 inch from the end here. We're using 1/8 inch rivets. You always want to have your rivet can't be any closer to the edge than double the width or the diameter of the rivets or whatever fastener you're using, in this case an 1/8 inch rivet. So we're going to drill a hole through here, pilot holes into this, And then we're going to peel the skin back on the top of the, well, right now it's on the top of the aircraft. We're going to kind of peel this skin back, which will give us access into this splice down here. And then we're going to use our pilot hole drilled spacers here to line up where they need to go on that splice and use it as a drill template so we can drill down into that splice to get it where we want it. And once that's done, we're going to put the skin back down and then from the bottom drill up so that we can kind of cleco all of these parts together here at once. I've removed the cross tie going across the front here, and I have the skin up, and now here is my first officer side spacer here, and it should line up at the very end here and match up side to side here as well. I'll put a C-clamp on that, drill my first hole, and then put in a cleco. And then drill out my second hole, put in a cleco, and then I can remove the C-clamp to do that. Cleco's actually holding this cross member here up off of the parts that we need to drill through. Try 2, I'm going to wrap this with some painter's tape to hold it in position where I want it, and then pull out the cleco and then reassemble this and then drill up through it from there. Alright, so here's something I've been a little bit perplexed with. This clip down here has a couple of holes drilled in it back in this area, and I've been struggling to figure out the best way to drill through the skin because you don't have access underneath. The clip actually has another protrusion that goes that direction and blocks these holes. So what I've done is I've pulled out these clecos here and all the clecos going down here and is able to peel the skin up. And then I used my adjustable square to measure out exactly where, with 90 degrees from the side panel here to where that hole is. That's what this line coming towards us is, so right here. And then I also used that adjustable square to figure out where the center of the hole was, and I was able to draw a mark for here and a mark for here. At this point I've drilled one in, and it pretty much hit right on, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and drill out the second one, and fingers crossed that one hits the mark as well. Alright, that worked, so I'll go do it on the other side as well. It went together pretty well. Everything seems to line up there. Next thing to do is to drill these pilot holes through here. We've got the holes drilled in the bottom skin here to give us a reference of where to drill, but the cross channel here does not have holes drilled in it yet. So We're going to use each of these pilot holes that are already in the bottom skin to drill into the C-channel beneath and move forward to that point. Okay, we got all those holes drilled across the front there. This hole here is meant for the flap control arm, this piece right here. I need to be able to get this end into that hole, which means I have to kind of put it through the hole sort of cockeyed like this, and then twist it into the hole so I can then push it in the rest of the way. And then I can put the other end in, this side, into the oblong side over here that looks like this. Now this side works fine, I've already been able to test it, but getting the 90-degree angle on this thing, I've only drilled it out to the hole specified by Sonex, and it's supposed to be able to accommodate this. Now it's the right size and diameter of this pole here, but then trying to get this around the corner there, that hole is not big enough to accommodate that bend right there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do then is just open up this hole slightly larger. I'm going to use my step drill to do that. It worked pretty well to make the hole in the first place, and I've still got one more notch on it. So I'm going to go ahead and try that and cross my fingers that it will be big enough. I've got the flap control operation lever thing here in. Unfortunately, when I was trying to put it in, I put a little tiny dent right here. It didn't quite get through all the way before I started moving, and it caught the corner here and put a little dent in it. But it does fit with that slightly larger hole. And then I was able to just slide this other side into place right through the oblong hole that we drilled otherwise. This one didn't have to be adjusted at all. It just works right out of the box. Alright, so the next thing to do is to drill all of these holes here that are silver clecos right now. Drill those up to copper clecos, except on the front here I'm going to leave those silver because eventually we're going to have to match drill with the bottom skin that goes on the forward fuselage here. And then I also have to up drill and rivet some of these where the cross ties meet these vertical channels here. I'm also going to hold off drilling this cross tie box here until I hear back from Sonex. My assumption is that they're going to tell me to just measure off and drill these holes on the correct side. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Otherwise, I'll have to order a new part, or maybe they'll send me the one that's drilled properly. I don't know. Well, give me a second to vent here. I've gone ahead and connected on the forward skin that's going to go on the bottom of the forward fuselage here, and I've lined up all the holes that are pre-drilled. What I'm kind of frustrated about is this right here, these 3 holes. Those holes are there in this bottom skin, but not in the lower skin for the rear. And as you're building this out, this is where I had to put that spacer and everything that goes into the splice that's below this. Now I've done a pretty good job of measuring it out, but it was kind of just guesswork. And you can see that, 2 of those are okay. The third one, the one closest to the left here, right here, that one is off-centered. And this is the side that turned out really well. 2 of the holes I think are fine. The third one I guess I'm gonna have to put a doubler over those or something. I'm not really sure how to keep this strong and everything in place. The other side though is the worst one. Let me walk over here. So on this one you can see that they're even farther off. They're not even close. I mean, I think I can probably get a rivet into one of those, the one over here to the farthest to my left, but these 2 are like completely off. So I'm a little bit frustrated by that. I wish that the directions would have said to line this up first using the forward skin to the rear skin, but you know, there's no mention of that anywhere. It just says to drill these holes according to the spacer. So here's just a drawing of what I was just talking about. Like, this is on a drawing SMB F11. So this is farther forward in the instructions. Here's the rivets that I'm talking about. These 3 holes we drilled based on the drawing. I think it was F21 or F18. I can't remember which one it is. But here it's saying that I need to locate those holes per pilot holes in the lower skin of fuselage tail cone. And those aren't pilot holes that exist in the fuselage lower tail cone. I actually had to make that myself. And then this one, the forward skin, it's on this side, this is the one that has those 3 holes. And so it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Anyway, so what I'm thinking of looking at this now is I'm going to go ahead and build a doubler that kind of encompasses those 3, and then also kind of comes over here diagonally and attaches around here. Kind of a little triangular shaped one. So I've got the 2 holes here, I've got the 3 holes here that'll all hold all of those parts together, and I'll probably put another rivet or 2 right in here too, just to adhere it to that bottom skin a little bit more. My issue is that with any of these holes being oblong or out of size, it gives an opportunity for the skins to wiggle around a little bit, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to have to, like I said, kind of make a doubler here that goes over the top of that to just make sure that those rivets aren't moving around and holds all the parts together as best they can. So it's kind of frustrating. Anyway, if you're going to do this yourself, I'm just going to give you a pointer. Line up your 2 lower skins, the forward and the aft, together first. Drill the holes, because all you got to do is just put in these clecos that are, you know, across the front here. All of those are already pre-drilled in both skins. So just put clecos into that and then drill out these 3 holes here. And then once you have that done into your lower skin, it's really easy. I mean, I went through this in a really painful way. Had I known that these 3 holes were here, I would have saved myself a whole bunch of effort and frustration, and the holes would have just been drilled in the right spots. And then I could have just laid this bottom skin on the rear and lined up my my spacer and everything below it, and just drilled these holes directly into it based on you know, knowing where those holes need to be. So hopefully this helps you to not run into this sort of issue. I'm pretty frustrated by that. Alright, well, I didn't show it on camera, but I flipped the whole tail cone here upside down, and I put in silver clecos where I didn't want to drill, and I did drill in a couple of holes here, as you can see here. Same thing down on the inside ones here. Again, I flipped it over so I had better access. I decided to leave the bottom skin in place just to make sure everything was, you know, held in place and lined up exactly where I wanted it. And I put in silver clecos where I don't want to drill. In each of the cross members and on the uprights as well. Now that I've got all these other holes drilled, these larger 3/16 clecos holding this in place, there's a crossbar here that's going to hold in place. So now that that's all, I'm happy with how straight it is and everything. I'm going to pull out all these clecos, peel the skin up, and then put all these clecos back into place where they go to hold it all sturdy where I want it. And then I'll be able to drill the pilot holes through this shear web assembly that's right here, what I'm touching, through the upper longeron here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, with that being put up like that, I now have access to go in and drill these pilot holes all along through here. And there's some up in this angle as well that need to be drilled out, going down into the other side of this shear web here. And I gotta say, it's pretty tough to get a drill down inside of there. What I ended up using was this 90-degree tool that I used before. So I did this one first through the hole, and then the second one I was able to get the whole drill kind of down inside of here. Moved it out a little bit on my chuck here just so I have a little more space, because right now my fingers are running up against this wall over here. Not quite going to be able to get that one in the corner from the outside, so I'm going to have to go in it from this direction. You know, if only I had a third arm, this would be so much easier. Try to do this again from the other side. I also still need to do a couple of pilot holes up into here. Right now I've got only 2 drilled into it, holding it in place, but I've got like 4 or 5 others on either side here to drill that direction also. So I might go ahead and do that now while I've got access to it and just get it done. All the holes are drilled. For right now, just up to 3/32. But at least now all the holes are there, and I can up drill those to 1/8 inch here when I'm ready. I've gone ahead and replaced the skin on the bottom. Everything's still lined up okay. It looks pretty good. And I'm just going to go ahead and flip this back over one more time so I can get to the vertical channels and also the cross ties, so that I can get all those holes up drilled to the copper clecos. Next up, I'm going to pilot drill these seatbelt mounts here. According to the instructions, these are supposed to be lined up at 9/32 of an inch from the outside edge to the beginning of this sheet here. But there's already pre-drilled holes going into this cross member into the top here. So I've put a couple clecos in there, and it lines up pretty much exactly at 9/32. I did put my measuring tool on there, my adjustable square. You got to kind of make sure it's all lined up, so I drew a line all the way down here. In the end, I think it's easier to just line up this corner back here with the inside edge of this upper longeron here. So that puts it right on the line. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a C-clamp, clamp that down into place, and then start drilling my pilot holes into here. Alright, I've done as many of these as I can comfortably do, including on this here shear webbing back here. Up underneath here, I got these all up to 1/8 inch holes as well. Over here on this side also. Down below on each of these connections here. Drilled them out properly, as they should be. The seatbelt mount here has also been up drilled on both sides. I'm running low on copper clecos at this point. I went ahead and ordered another 100 of them. They'll be here on Wednesday, but yeah, it's getting down to slim pickings here, trying to hold all the parts together all at once. Alright, next I need to get down underneath these cross ties here. There are some holes, some pilot holes right here, 2 of them going up into this upper spar here. So I need to get a clamp on here, clamp it into place, and then get up in there and drill the pilot holes up into the upper spar here. Well, there's not quite enough room to get the drill bit back behind this, so I think what I'm going to end up having to do is measure this out and drill from the top instead. Makes me a little bit nervous because if I miss the pilot hole, then, you know, that's kind of an issue. I can't think of another way to get in there. Even a long drill bit won't fit because you've got to get it kind of past this, and you're going to drill it kind of cockeyed to try and get it back into that corner. I think I really have to drill it from the top. Not ideal. So theoretically, that little cross right there is where I should be able to drill and hit the hole directly beneath. Well, I'm gonna call that a success. It's right in the hole on both sides. That actually worked surprisingly well. No oblong. In fact, it's the first one I drilled is more oblong than the second one I drilled. That's incredible. So here's something that's probably worth talking about. When all these clecos are in place using pre-drilled holes from the factory, this top spar here is slightly away. You can see that when I move that. It's slightly away from the spar. So with this farther in rivet right here, it's actually going to put quite a bit of pressure on that. And so the proper way to deal with this is not just to put a rivet in there and let it kind of pull itself into place. The proper thing to do is to put a shim in between that fills in that gap. And so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do on this one. This is the only one that was sort of far away from the spar here that actually has a small gap. The rest of them seem to line up pretty much flush. More than likely, you know, when they were putting this cross member here into the bender, it probably moved a little tiny bit and just bent this radius a little bit farther that direction than it was meant to be. It's not a huge deal. Like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and put a shim in between here and pull the rivets through it. So I'm just going to go ahead and work on that now. Alright, there's my little shims. I'm going to go ahead and put them in place, drill them out, and cleco them in place, and then up drill as well. Yeah, that's about as good as it gets right there. It lined it up nice and straight and filled in that gap perfectly. Very happy with that. Alright, I took a quick break for lunch. Now I've got to take this guy and flip it back over one more time so I can get inside of this area here in the back that has a bunch of silver clecos still. And the best way to access that is to flip this over and pull off this bottom skin again. A lot of flipping over, but I think this should be the last time to do that. Alright, so I've got a couple more things to drill out here. I've got the skin peeled back again, and I've got these several holes down here to drill out to 1/8 size, or size 30, number 30, and a bunch up here on top. And I believe that that's the end of the up drilling for this part. And then I'll just tear it all apart, do my deburring, do a quick little layer of primer over all the facing edges, and reassemble it and rivet everything together. Not everything, but a lot of it. I'm going to drill these all up to copper. All these I'm going to leave it silver because there's the turtle deck needs to tuck up underneath. I'm not sure how far back it goes, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave these all at silver for now, so I can just detach the whole part at once, deburr it, drill it, whatever I need to do when the time comes. Same thing on this side. I'm going to drill these up to copper clecos as well, but I'm going to leave these ones in the back here. Those are going to stay undrilled for now, just because eventually I have to put my vertical stabilizer, and that's one of the areas where it connects is right there. I need to make sure those are center drilled into the channel that slides down into here. Well, actually slides from the bottom up right now because it's upside down. And then at the same time I'm going to have to drill these out up to bolt size instead of using clecos on this. Alright, well here I am again Friday. I left off working the last little clip there that you just saw on Monday. At this point, I'm not sure I got this all on camera, but I went ahead and pulled all the parts apart after drilling, and then I deburred everything, and I've gone ahead and put a little coat of primer on all of the edges that meet up anywhere. So along all of the edges of the bottom skin, all of the cross ties, all of the vertical channels, all the parts that kind of go in the tail and all that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of put it all back together now. So the one thing I did not up drill and deburr and paint and all that stuff is this cross tie box here. I was still waiting for Sonex to get back to me about these holes that are misdrilled in the part. I heard back from them Tuesday, and what they said is I just basically have to measure out where these are and put them over here instead. I'll go ahead and do that in a bit. I want to start putting some of the parts together, but I'm probably going to start building the back end of the tail first, putting in all the parts that were back there, and that'll allow me to kind of move this front part away from each other a little bit and get this cross tie box out so I can do the next step on that. spacer eventually is going to go away, so I didn't even bother painting it. Once it comes time to install the vertical stabilizer here for good. But these holes are drilled up to a 3/16. But these ones up on top here I've left at copper at the 1/8 size, and eventually those will get up drilled for the bottom of the spar on the vertical stabilizer here. I've placed the lower skin into my holder over there between the wings, and so now it's time to put the rest of these cross ties in all the way from front to back. Also, I think that I put this part on backwards. The slope's going down. I think it needs to go up, so I'm going to flip that around real quick. Just want to make sure that I note that I did something wrong and going to do it right. Yeah, there we go. So this is lined up. The slope is correct going along with the rest of the bottom of the skin here, and the holes here also line up with this vertical channel that goes right through here as well. Alright, it's another beautiful Friday morning. I have the day off again. I take off every other Friday and like to spend that time working on the airplane. I've taken off this cross tie splice here. I finally heard back from Sonex, if I didn't mention that already. So what Sonex said is that I should just go ahead and measure off these holes and re-drill them over here on this side. So that's what I'm going to do. First thing I want to do is just verify that these holes are actually 90 degrees off of this. I believe they are. So we're going to use this square here to verify that. They do line up. That's good on both of these, I believe. Looks like it's about 3 1/8 from the end on this part that protrudes out a little bit farther. So I'll just transpose that to the other side, go in 3 1/8, and do a 90 degree here, and then measure the second one here and do another 90 degree. Alright, the second line looks like it's 4 3/4 in, so I'll go put that on the other side too. Alright, there it is. That's where the holes are going to go. Just going to grab those brackets that need to go on here and line them up and drill the holes. I've gone ahead and flipped this around so that it matches the drawing, so that the trapezoidal shape kind of goes out like that now. So with a wider spot up to the top instead of the other way that I had it a minute ago, and that matches the drawing here. I've also drawn this line side to side here, center hole to center hole between these rivet holes here. These brackets, the holes on either end, this one and this farthest one down here, should line up with this hole and this hole right here. So I should have everything in line, and everything should be just about perfect. I'm going to go ahead and drill this out and attach these brackets where they go. As I started to drill it, this bracket creaked just a little tiny bit, so I popped it back off and made sure it was centered across the holes here. Looks like it budged just a little tiny bit. I'm not happy with that, so I'm gonna use the next hole up instead. Well, while I'm waiting for these actuator mounts here to dry, I gave them a quick little spritz of primer as well. I turned my attention to where they're going to connect in, and I was looking at this and I noticed that there is a small gap between this flap mount right here. It's sort of an angle that comes down part of this splice here. I noticed that there is a gap between the back side of that and the sidewall. And I started to kind of scratch my head and say, now where's, obviously there's something that needs to fill that space, but where is it and what is it? And so I started digging around through the instructions, and I finally found it. It's actually under the control section, so SNB Charlie 05, Charlie for controls. Looking at the electric flap actuator and the flap install tube installation here. And I finally found it. There's a little angle here that has a slight bend in this. So instead of being a 90 degree, it looks like at the factory, it was designed with I don't know what that is, probably like a 80, let's say 80 degree bend, or maybe an 85 degree bend, I don't know. However, the ones that I had in my kit looked a little bit different than this. If you take a close look, the bend is only on this top part of it here, and it kind of comes in, but this is flush down here. The one that I actually received as part of the kit, it has a slight bend in this direction and a slight bend in this direction. So the overall angle is the same, but it's not just from one side. It actually is sort of equidistant, or I'm not sure how you say that in terms of degrees, but the same number of degrees off of the 90 degree bend here at the tip, coming up this way and that way. Anyway, I've gone ahead and placed those inside of here. They go in behind this, and I've got them all C-clamped in place with this cross member in place as well to sort of hold everything where it needs to go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do some pilot holes through here. I'm not going to up drill them yet, just going to do pilot holes to hold everything together for now. Alright, I've gone ahead and put these clecos here in place where they need to be. I probably should put these in here before I started drilling, but everything lined up afterwards, so I'm okay with that. I've got 4 clecos in holding the back side of this this angle back here. There's still 4 more holes to drill, but I can't really get to them with this side piece here. So what I'm going to do is, while this is in place, I'm going to go ahead and drill from the other side. I have to drill some pilot holes that are going to come through on this side. Just going to do a couple of them here to start because the C-clamp's going to be in the way. But I definitely want to get those drilled out as well. Not sure I'm going to get back to these holes here without... Yeah, I think I'm going to have to pull off this cross member here to get those last couple holes drilled over here. Okay, now that both of these sides are securely in place with clecos, I'm going to go ahead and drill these last 4 holes. Alright, I'm going to call that a successful endeavor. I've got all the holes drilled across through this angle that goes back behind this now. There's no more space in between here. We've got that sort of a shim, but also a strengthening part here. It kind of goes back behind this, and it's all square and looks the way it's supposed to look. Okay, I've got 1 hole drilled through this plastic bushing here coming up from the bottom. I was able to go through that and into here. This is the let's see, the left side of the aircraft, the left side block here. It's supposed to be lined up flush front and back here and over here and here. The right side, on the other hand, is going to be slightly off because this bar actually has, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it kind of bumps out a little bit here and then it goes back in. to go around this block, and then there's another kind of a wider side on the other end of it. You can't see it probably from here, but rest assured there's a spot in here that's an inch wide, just as wide as this block is, that this rides on, and then has a stopper on this end and on the other side that's going to keep it from sliding back and forth. But it's only on the right side of the airplane that you see that. And so the next thing I need to do, now that I've got a hole drilled over here holding this in place, the next thing I need to do is figure out how to get this centered so that just the same amount pokes out on this side as pokes out on this side. And what I've realized, I actually had it a second ago, and then I realized that I was probably just moving this. There's no cross member here to hold it all in place. I took that off to do some other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and put that cross member back in place before I measure this to make sure I get that perfectly centered before drilling this second one. Well, I've run into a bit of an issue here. I was trying to fit this cross tie into place, but the lower part of it here, there's a little 90-degree bend, and it bumps into this block here for the flap actuator. I spent probably a good, I don't know, 45 minutes or so trying to dig through the instructions to try and figure out, you know, where I went wrong on this. The only thing I've found so far that explains what I need to do here, there's a sort of a graphic here, detail C on SMB C05, and this is the part that I'm talking about right here. It's the lower cross tie number 1 reference, and if you follow it, this is looking at it from, I think, below, and you'll see that this is the bottom part here. There's a line, and then it kind of goes up to about here, and then it kind of cuts over with a rounded bend here, and then back out. I don't see any place in the instructions anywhere. This is saying that it's SNX F24-05 lower cross tie number 1 reference. So I looked back at that, the F24-05. It doesn't show that cutout on there. The part obviously doesn't have it. So it looks like I actually need to make that cut, but I'm not exactly sure where that information is. I'm going to keep looking around, see if I find something, but it looks like here it shows the same kind of deal. So here's the cross tie, and also, you know, it comes up and it kind of has a little cut just before that and bends kind of around the flap actuator block here. So I think that the answer is that I just need to pull off that cross tie and make a little cut to kind of, you know, make it go around that block. I'm going to keep digging and see if I find anything else, but I've been looking at this pretty much I've gone through every single sheet in here and haven't seen anything that describes what that size is or anything like that. So I think I'm not wrong. I think I just need to kind of do it. Well, still not finding anything, so the best thing I can do, I think, is just to measure this. This is a full-scale graphic, so I'm just going to go ahead and measure it. It's from this solid line right here over to this first solid line here. That looks to me like it's a 1/4 inch there, so 8/32. It looks like it's a 1 5/8 from here to the end of the block here. Alright, well, based on my measurements, this is going to be my cutout with a 1/8 inch radius rounded edge here. Make sure we don't have a square edge, so we don't have any stress fractures there. But I'll go ahead and drill that, starting with the pilot hole, and then we'll work our way up to a 1/4 inch drill bit to round that off with an 1/8 inch radius. Looks pretty good. Alright, there it is with the little notch taken out of it, and it now clears the flap actuator block there, which hangs down about another ½ inch beyond where that thing comes out. Alright, and I've got this lined up about 3/4 of an inch from the bend line here. So those are parallel. And it's about 3/4 of an inch on that side, and if I come over here, it's pretty much dead on as well. So I'm going to say that's kind of perfectly centered. I don't know about perfect, but close enough. And I'm going to go ahead and drill one hole into this other block up inside of here. Alright, well, I pulled this block out. I've already pulled the other one out as well. I tried to mark this one. I don't know if you can see or not. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this lithium grease into it to make sure that it slides appropriately. It should be sort of stiff, but not, you know, too stiff. It should move freely. So the other option, if this doesn't loosen it up enough, is to kind of scrub the paint off of the bar that goes through here. Doesn't look like it's terribly thick paint, so not sure if I actually want to do that or not. We'll try the grease first and see what happens. That's what it looks like with the flap actuator on there. It's fully extended right now. Fully extended, it doesn't come up to where the bottom skin is. In the directions, it kind of gives you a warning that depending on the actuator you have to make sure that it's connected to the right spot in order to make sure that this doesn't come up and run into the bottom skin. There's still a good, I don't know, 1.5 inches or so there between the two. So here's another little thing I've been playing around with. If you followed the channel at all, you know I like to dabble a little bit, but I put together a little Arduino with a motor controller, and this particular flap actuator, not all of the Sonexes came with it, but this particular one does. It actually has a an output reading sensor on there as well. So if you have the one that has these 3 wires coming out of it, you also have the sensor inside of it that tells you how far extended the actuator is. And so I've put together a little Arduino project here with a little screen. Right now it's reading at 40. In my code, I've made it possible to put in various different steps or positions, I guess, for the flaps. In this case, I put in 0, 10, 20, 30, and 40. They don't necessarily mean degrees or anything like that. I was just putting in some round numbers. Eventually, I'll actually put a level on the flaps to see what the actual settings are. It might only be 3 settings that I decide on, or 4 or 10, or I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I've set it up with a couple of buttons. If I push the up button, it'll actually make the actuator move up to the next step. And it kind of stops. Obviously, it still needs a little bit of code work here. It kind of went a little bit past 30 before it stopped. Push the button again. It'll stop around 20. It's supposed to go 1 notch at a time. And then final. There we go. I'm working on a circuit board to go with it as well, so it's not all just on this breadboard here with all these wires hanging out. It'll be a lot prettier than this in the final version, if I even decide to do this. I don't know. I was just playing around with this actuator a little bit more, and I found something I'm not really happy with. If I retract the flaps all the way, this metal part here, the black metal thing, runs into my actuator. I don't know if I can get this on camera or not, but it's actually kind of putting a little divot into the plastic here. Not really liking that. If I go up all the way here, you can see it's really close here. I stopped it before it actually touched, but it will continue to go another couple of probably 2 millimeters here or so and bump into this plastic thing and actually start to damage it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to round off that black part right there a little bit so that it actually doesn't run into the actuator itself. Alright, 15 minutes of filing away, and it now fits without hitting it. It's no longer running into it. Let me retract this again. Just a little gap between there. Happy with that.